Sex is the life force energy that runs through us all. Can you use sexual energy for your spiritual evolution? Or perhaps for emotional healing? Is it even possible? Clinical sexologist Dr. Martha Tara Lee will explore all these and more on Eros Evolution on Om Times Radio.
Hi, welcome to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. This is Dr. Martha Tara Lee. I'm a clinical sexologist based in Singapore, and my company is called Eros Coaching. That's EROS coaching.com. And today I have with me Dr. Mitchell Tepper, and the title of today's show is 5 Secrets to Pleasure and Connectedness. He is the prophet of pleasure as we will be discussing pleasure, orgasm, trust, safety, connectedness, love, and desire to achieve ultimate satisfaction in your intimate relationships. We'll be sharing with you insights to the following secrets that emerge from Dr. Tepper's research on pleasure and orgasm in people with spinal cord injuries, and that pleasure is not simply a physical sensation. Orgasm happens not just between your legs. Trust, safety, and connectedness matters more than movement or sensations, and that intimate connection fuels desire. Love is an action, not a feeling. So a little bit more about Dr. Tepper. He has a PhD and MPH. He's the author of Regain That Feeling, Secrets to Sexual Self-Discovery. He'll be bringing a lifetime of first-hand experience with chronic conditions and disability to calling himself as a sexologist. He is with American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. He's a certified sexuality educator with them. He's also a certified sexuality counselor, certified educator, supervisor, and an approved continued education provider, all with ASEC. And he's a licensed PAS instructor, sex coach, writer, researcher, public speaker, and self-proclaimed prophet of pleasure. You can find him on his website. That's Dr. Mitchell Tepper, MITCHELLTEPPER.com. So welcome to the show, Dr. Tepper.
Thank you for having me on.
It's such a pleasure and honor to have you. We connected just before the show, and I told you that I've been following your work for a long time, and I really respect what you do, and you kindly sent me your book, Regain the Feeling, which I love. So can you just, for the benefit of listeners, explain a little bit more about your expertise and how you got into this field?
Oh, sure. So like you, I'm a sexologist. Mm-hmm. So I study human sexuality from a bio-psycho, social, emotional, and spiritual perspective. So kind of like a jack of all trades. But my expertise within sexology is on the sexuality of people with disabilities and people with chronic conditions. So I look at that intersection and how, changes, physical, mental, psychological, emotional changes affect our sexuality, and most importantly, how people could optimize pleasure after experiencing some type of loss.
And how did you get into this field?
I tell people I literally dove head first into this field. I have a background. My first degree is in business, and I was working as a lifeguard, and I broke my neck in entering the water. And so, that accident, which left me quadriplegic, slowly changed the course of my career. So I finished up a degree in finance. I decided to go get a degree in public health, where I was going to go and manage a rehab hospital, and I got sidetracked, and I did a national survey in the United States on sexuality education and counseling in spinal cord injury rehab programs. and discovered less than half of all the people surveyed received any kind of education. Now, this is an injury that affects 90% of people in one way or another. It affects their sexuality. And the half that got any kind of education, half said it didn't meet their needs. So I kind of felt this was my calling. People were not only answering my survey, but sending me cards and questions. And from there, I took off and went on to get my PhD in human sexuality.
Yeah, and the world is better for what you have gone through, actually. Unfortunate as your accident has been. You also mentioned that you have Crohn's disease from young.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Crohn's is a type of, more people are familiar with colitis, and it's in the family of inflammatory bowel disease. So I grew up, and it was basically my symptom, I looked malnourished. So I was very skinny. I was called skin and bones. I was pale. And, I was delayed in going through puberty. And when that happened, that's when I went for more studies. So I grew up, and then the norm for me was having stomach cramps and diarrhea and no appetite. So that was kind of like the norm for me. Once I was treated or diagnosed as an early teen and treated, I went on steroids, prednisone to be specific, which helped my symptoms, allowed me to grow. I filled out a lot. I gained weight, gained muscle mass, and eventually couldn't be managed by the drugs, and I needed surgery, which led me to get an ileostomy bag, which is like a colostomy bag or something that collects your poop. You wear it on your side. Anyway, that's what led to breaking my neck, because when I dove in the water, I had that bag. I had just, got recovered from surgery from the ileostomy, and when I dove into the water and put my hand over the bag, I angled too deep, and that's what kind of caused me to then go and hit my head. So, I have a lifetime of dealing with this chronic condition before, breaking my neck, which I think, prepared me well for coping.
Yeah. Yes, you mentioned all that in your book, and I was very moved reading it. You mentioned that you don't have to break your neck to be a great lover, but you can learn a lot from someone who has. Can you explain more about that? Yes.
Because, the book has a picture of a couple, and the guy is in a wheelchair. There's a woman on his lap, and it talks about people living with spinal cord injuries share profound insights into sex, pleasure, and relationships and orgasm. So people think it's a book just for people with spinal cord injuries or maybe just for disabilities. But in fact, I think the messages that come out of there, the profound insights, are universal, and that when somebody is faced with something like a spinal cord injury where there's either a limitation in movement or total loss in movement, a loss in sensation, not just in the genitals but all over the body, maybe a change in function in the genitals, we're forced to find new ways to experience pleasure, to rediscover, orgasm, and we're just forced to be more creative, more adaptive. I think we have a better sense of humor about sex. So I think there's a lot that able-bodied people or people who have not experienced a disability or a chronic condition can learn from those of us who have.
Yeah, I definitely agree with being adaptable, having humor, and also you share in the book your research on pleasure and orgasm in people who have spinal cord injury, leading you to identify the importance of trust, safety, and connectedness to both experiences. Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah. When I investigated, I studied people with spinal cord injuries, those who had orgasm and those who didn't have orgasm. And whether they had orgasm or not, and that usually happened a long time after their injury, people's first experience after injury, tell me about your sexuality, they said, it's not the same, it's not normal. And what's the same or normal was the same as or normal what was for them before they broke their neck, or I work with wounded warriors before they stood on a landmine or whatever. And then usually their first experience, still in the hospital, was masturbation. And since it wasn't the same, it wasn't progressing, they didn't feel like they used to, they thought it was pointless. Why bother? They also then had real life experience or life experiences with partners. Some partners avoided having sex with them. Some partners cheated on them and left people feeling like they weren't lovable or capable anymore. And for single people, they felt like no one will want to be with a person with a disability. But I asked everybody whether they experienced pleasure or orgasm about their peak sexual experience. And their peak sexual experience, they said, was with a particular partner. And with that partner, that was a trusted partner, and they felt like an emotional safety. And in the context of trust and emotional safety, they felt a sense of connectedness. Yeah. And this sense of connectedness is what led to re-experiencing pleasure and orgasm again.
Yes. And it's universal, like you said.
Absolutely. I think that, people can be mindless about sex. They could be totally focused on getting off. They could be totally focused on themselves. And that, is, it's like fast food. It's more of like a momentary pleasure versus when somebody is more deeply connected, the experience can be richer and more fulfilling. So, a little could go a long way.
Yeah. So we have a break, and we're talking with Dr. Mitchell Tepper on this very important topic of pleasure and connectedness. So more after this break.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Join Vibe Nation radio host, international psychic medium Carrie Turcotte, as she guides her listeners to rediscover themselves by accessing the keys of knowledge that already exist within. Each week's show is divinely orchestrated to intertwine with the universal energies, allowing the listeners to go deeper within. At the end of each show, Carrie will tap into the energies of the listeners and give a message from Spirit about the upcoming week. If you really want to get to know who you truly are, join Carrie each Monday at 3 p.m. on Vibe Nation Radio.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your hosts on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at Om Times Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. Om Times Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business. Feed your soul with waves of consciousness on Om Times Radio.
Welcome back to Eros Evolution, where sexuality and spirituality meets. After breaking his neck in 1982 and a short career in business and finance, our guest today, Dr. Mitchell Tepper, realigned his life with his mission to end the silence around sexuality and disability. Since then, he has become an internationally recognized expert in the field and leading advocate for the provision of comprehensive sexual health care in rehabilitation programs, including rehab programs for wounded warriors and their partners. His academic credentials includes a Master of Public Health from Yale University, a PhD in Human Sexuality Education from the University of Pennsylvania, where his research focused on pleasure and orgasm in people with spinal cord injuries. He is currently working on a documentary, Making Love After Making War, supporting intimate relationships for wounded warriors and their families. Dr. Tepper lives in Atlanta with his wife Cheryl, and they have a 19-year-old son, Jeremy. And his website, once again, is drmitchelltepper.com. And do remember, he also has a book called Regain That Feeling. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Okay, so in your book, you asked readers to imagine for a moment a world without genitals. Can you share with our readers, listeners, how this helps to expand their understanding of emotional and spiritual aspects of sexual pleasure?
Sure. In my research, I ask people how they learned about sex, and people learn about sex from having sex. At least in this country, it's very haphazard. They're not well prepared. There's not a lot of sexuality education, and it's very genitally focused. So what we see in the media and what we hear, everything is about what we do with our genitals. So, I ask people to stop for a moment and imagine what the world would be like and what our sexuality would be like if we were born without genitals. So, in that world, we'll be able to really come to embrace the beauty of our evolving sexuality, because it would be possible to learn about how to love others and to love ourselves without really any expectations of this physical performance or sexual performance. So, if we began to value sensual pleasure and non-genital touch as much as we did genital touch, and if we, had our families and schools, our religious institutions teaching us about sexuality, about relationships, about intentional love, about acceptance, and about connectedness, then without the genitals, it makes us easier to see the emotional and spiritual aspects of sexuality. So you say, let there be genitals, and now we have penises and vulvas and clitorises and all these things that bring great pleasure and all that hormonal-driven sex drive with that comes along with genitals. Now we have something really extra special on top of what we already learned about our sexuality. So then, if God forbid, either you lose your feeling or you lose function, or in some cases of some of the guys that I work with, from explosions, they actually lose their genitals. They still have a whole lifetime of sensuality, of sexuality to fall back on. So they wouldn't be so lost. Right now, when I'm working with people, their first sense is it's not the same. It's not normal. What's normal is what they see, what they felt before, what they see in the media, and it's pointless. Why bother? And so, what I need to do, help people to do, is see that they have, a sexual life, one that can be pleasurable, and we haven't talked a lot about the research, but even before my research with men and women, I was involved in laboratory research with women with complete spinal cord injuries. So these are women who had no feeling or movement below their level of injury. None of them had feeling or movement in their genitals. And yet, 3 out of 15 were able to experience orgasm. So that was something that couldn't be explained. that it was believed that if someone had a complete spinal cord injury, orgasm was impossible.
Yes.
In other laboratory studies, 50% of women had orgasms. So, my question is, if one woman can have and the other one can't, what's the difference? And that's where we get into the realm of spirituality. It's beyond what we could explain scientifically, and that's where the connectiveness comes in.
Yeah. So do you think it's a neural rewiring that's happening in the body that allows some to have versus others?
I think, in this process of sexual self-discovery, I think, we can relearn. I talk about orgasm as a learned phenomenon, and what's learned can be relearned. So we learn it primarily from stimulating our genitals, but when we begin to learn to activate the pleasure centers in our brain, you and I were talking about Tantra before, and, Tantra uses breath and sound, movement for those who can move, to help move sexual energy through the body and, reach a point of bliss or ecstasy. And, really, I think in its most esoteric sense, Tantra, you wouldn't even need sex to reach kind of an orgasmic bliss.
Yes, that they don't need to have penetration or genitals.
Right.
So I like what you're saying about a world without genitals, because I think we have all these nerve endings in our genitals and we just go for them because they're sensitive and it feels good. But if we just think of a world without, then our whole body is actually capable of being this sexual organ. And so I relate to that point that you said earlier, where orgasm happens not just between your legs.
Right. So, we have these, what I told you, what I found is a lot of myths that I have no feeling my sex life is over, or no one's going to want someone with a lover. But some of the secrets or the keys, the understandings that come from my work, when I say orgasm happens between your ears, not just between your legs, we went on to look at orgasm in these women. When I say we, Doctors Beverly Whipple and Barry Komisarek and the team went on to look at fMRI studies, like brain studies, and to show that the orgasm in the women with disabilities was real. It wasn't, what science called before phantom orgasms, just like phantom pain from a limb that's gone. So we were able to look at the brain of women with complete injuries. So traditional definitions of orgasm focused on measurable changes in the genitals. So we think of, contractions around our genitals and the expulsation of ejaculation for men as orgasms, and we think of, the muscles, pubococcygeal muscles around the vagina, grasping or clamping down as orgasms. But the newer definitions that are based on neurophysiology and brain research is really beginning to show that, orgasm, happens in the brain. It could be triggered, and most of us learn to have orgasms through the genitals. So when people talk about, they talk about a G-spot orgasm, a clitoral orgasm, blended orgasm, right? That's just talking about the area that is stimulated to result in an orgasm, but that orgasm is still, happening and being processed in your brain. So you could learn to have an ear orgasm or a thumb orgasm, right? So by learning to focus your intention and focus on those sensations, and you could come to, your brain can come to, like you said before, interpret those signals as sexual and just really begin to stimulate your system to you kind of let go in a pleasurable orgasm.
Yes. So I remember in your book, you shared your research that is all very exciting for me to read because it's all pioneering and it's all in that one book. So I really appreciated reading all that firsthand. And in the book, it said that a lot of the people who were not sexual by themselves, they found that the only way they could get turned on or wanted to was when they were with someone they actually wanted to be sexual with. So that's why you already shared just now the importance of trust, safety, and connectedness. So how about other secrets that you could reveal to listeners?
Well, I mean, the first I like to say is that pleasure is not merely a physical sensation, right? So people think, okay, I have no sensation there anymore. This could be even after prostate cancer surgery or any other kind of cancer-related surgery in the genital area, a hysterectomy. So, but pleasure, I studied pleasure throughout history and came up with my own definition of pleasure. And I say pleasure is a positive state of consciousness. So it's happening in our mind, perceived through our senses. So we could take in pleasures from, visual. We could watch a sunset and take pleasure from sensations, from smells, from touch, from taste. All of these, our senses are sources of pleasure. And then those senses, what we take in, are shaped by our attitudes, our beliefs, our knowledge, our desires, and our life experiences. So for one person, the idea of being, whipped or spanked with a paddle is a trigger, is terrible. And another person, the idea of being spanked is very exciting. So our attitude towards a sensation and our beliefs about that activity are going to shape our processing. And pleasure is a vital component of mental health and of quality of life. It's not just an extra. Lack of pleasure is a sign of depression.
So more about the keys of pleasure and connectedness after this break.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Have you been searching for a perspective beyond the mainstream? Check it out. Join your hosts Cielito Pascual and Diana Gold Holland on Share International Radio for thought-provoking views behind the news, Sundays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio. You can also find us at shareontheairradio.org. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for.
Dr. Kevin here, and I want to invite you every Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, to join me on the Dr. Kevin Show, where we have a diversity of guests who help you step outside the box, behind the curtain, and see what a load of crap is going on in the world today, so you have more information with which to make better decisions. We'll see you there. Namaste.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Om Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Om Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community. As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is. Free your mind with Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
welcome back to the show. You are listening to Eros Evolution on OMTimes Radio Network, and you can listen to this show by going to the link omtimes.com/mobile. With this link, you and your friends will be able to listen to the show without needing to download any app. It's really cool. So we are talking about the 5 secrets to pleasure and connectedness with Dr. Mitchell Tepper, and you can find him at drmitchelltepper.com, and you can also download your complimentary chapter to 7 secrets just reviewed from Regain That Feeling, his book, by going to this link. That's drmitchelltepper.com/secrets reviewed, and he'll be revealing to you his secrets. So do check out that link. Just before break, we were beginning to talk about the 5 secrets that he promised to tell us. The first one being trust, safety, and connectedness matter more than movement and sensations. The second being pleasure is not merely a physical sensation. And now I'd like to invite Dr. Tepper to elaborate more on the other points.
Thank you. And I think in that URL, it's a /secrets revealed.
Oh, sorry.
So we talked before the break about orgasm happening between your brains or between your ears and in your brain, and having, laboratory evidence of that. And we talked about pleasure not being just a sensation. One point about trust, safety, and connectiveness mattering more than physical or genital function. The evidence behind that is that when we look at people with different levels of and completeness of spinal cord injury, that means people who broke their back or broke their neck, or people who had lost all feeling and sensation and movement, or people who just lost some. Level and completeness of spinal cord injury does not determine the level of sexual satisfaction, and it doesn't differentiate those who experience orgasm from those who don't. And as I mentioned, the peak sexual experience was with trust and safety, and the most consistently significant factor that affects the post-injury sense of sexuality is, as we mentioned, a relationship with a significant other. So, with that, I want to get into talking about desire. And, one of the other secrets is that the calling card for intimate connection is desire. So we think about desire as something that's just innately like a drive, like we just feel. I don't know if the word translates internationally, but horny. Well, we just at certain times of the day, or when we're with somebody, we just feel like having sex, and that's kind of more hormonally influenced sex drive, right? So, but desire isn't always about a hormonally driven sex drive. Sometimes it's about what our heart wants. It's what our soul needs. It's what our gut says. So we have a desire to be accepted and a desire to be unconditionally loved. And I think that goes for anybody, with or without a disability. And when that desire is fulfilled, we feel energized and we feel revitalized and we feel fully alive, as valuable people who matter. So, there's a model of sexual response by another Dr. Rosemary Bassoon, and she talks about people, having different motivations for either being receptive to sexual activity or to, initiating sex. And that's not always, a raw sex drive. Sometimes it's a desire to be close, a desire to avoid the complications of sexual avoidance. Sometimes it's just for physical closeness. But sometimes when those things happen in the right context, then that spark of desire, that sex drive can come. It doesn't always have to start first. It doesn't have to be linear sex drive, and then, the excitement and orgasm. It doesn't have to happen that way.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's often said that women need an emotional connection before they feel like having sex. So this is precisely what I think your point is saying,
Yeah, but I ran a website which I started in 1996 and sold it in 2010, sexualhealth.com, and you'd be surprised in how many women wrote in to ask questions about their husband's low sex drive. So, one of the assumptions is that women need emotional connections, men don't. Well, that may be true for the teenage boy, but for the 40 or 50, 60-year-old guy, right, who's been working all day and, is tired and, may have two jobs, that desire is not always there either. Yeah. And sometimes they need a little emotional connection too, or they need their ego stroked or something in order to be in the mood. So I think it's, we fall into this, role kind of assumptions that men are always ready and women, need, a lot more emotional nurturing, and it's not always the case.
Yeah. So it's not gender specific.
No, I mean we could make generalizations, but I don't think those generalizations hold up, at least in practice over time. I think men also need, whether it's emotional or psychological, men also need connectiveness too, in order to want sex, at least in the context of a long-term relationship.
Yes.
And maybe different with a new partner, but for long-term relationships, I think both partners need a little emotional stroking.
That's a good point. Okay, so what about the next key that you have?
This one is about love, and it's funny. When I did this on a webinar, I made this statement: love is an action, not a feeling. And I asked how many people agreed or disagreed, and 68% of the people, they were able to vote, on the webinar, disagreed with this, that love is an action, not a feeling. And I understand that. I understand why they disagree. And we mentioned in the introduction that I'm a certified peers facilitator, and that's an acronym for Practical Applications of Intimate Relationship Skills. And it's a program that we're using with our wounded warriors, and it's developed by the Peers Foundation. And the folks from Peers say, love is a feeling, marriage is a contract, and relationships take work. So even in the program I'm certified in, they say love is a feeling. But I like to challenge that and say that the Western, you're in the East part of the world, but the Western view of love, and you can tell me whether this is, creeped into your thinking, but the Western view of love is embodied in Greek mythology, and that mythical character is Cupid. And Cupid, there's a picture of Cupid, which is a little child with wings holding an arrow, and the idea is that Cupid shoots the arrow into your heart, and it just happens to us. We literally fall in love. It's out of our control. It's by accident. It's by chance, right? And so that's our thinking. And so when we have a feeling, right, we're like, this must be love. Usually that feeling is lust. Usually Cupid's arrow hits us in the groin, not in the heart. So, when love is, actively focuses on the virtues of another person, it's intellectual. So, if I, get to know you, and there are things about you, and you're a hard worker, and you have a good sense of humor, and there are things that I learn about you, and those are virtues and that I like about you, and I'm attracted to you. That combination is love, and so love, it becomes our choice, and we're in control. So with conscious intention, with the energy and work and time, love grows. So it's not just a feeling. In most of the world, people's marriages are arranged, and over time they grow to love each other and also to be sexually attracted to each other. So when we think love is just a feeling, when we don't have that feeling, we fall out of love, we end up breaking up, getting a divorce, versus riding those waves of lust and, just, and just, making bad decisions based on what are more purely sexual feelings than loving feelings.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yes, in my part of the world, I actually have a lot of clients who are Indians from India, and lots of them have arranged marriages, and they just expect to fall in love, and they do. They do make an effort, they put in the work, they woo each other, and they fall in love. And in other cases where in longer term relationships, they fall out of love, they make the effort to fall back into love, and it's the commitment that helps them stay together, and the day-to-day living, the taking care of each other is love in action, as you mentioned. So yes. I like what you're saying, because I can see how it can be considered quite controversial to some people, but in my work and in your work, I'm sure we see a lot of love in action.
Yeah, I just celebrated my 30th wedding anniversary on Tuesday.
Yes.
And so we went to this place, Amelia Island, and, went out on the beach. And so I sprung for a cabana, it's like a four-cornered tent to have shade and a couple lounge chairs. And so they wrote King Tepper on it. And I was like, okay, King Tepper. And also with Queen Tepper. And they say, if you treat your partner like, in a heterosexual relationship, if you treat your partner like a queen and they treat you like a king, then you're going to be happy. So as long as there's mutual respect and people don't forget to remember that their partner is someone that they should be nice to versus the one they should take everything out on when they come home, because they can, you're more apt to have a relationship that's more conducive to better sex.
Definitely. So with Dr. Mitchell Tepper, and we're talking about the 5 secrets to pleasure and connectedness. And you've just had 5 secrets. So more after this break.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. Om Times Radio. IOM FM.
Looking for inspiration?
Want to be inspired?
Not sure where to go?
Find Mark and Kim every Wednesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Inspired Living.
Topics will elevate consciousness and range from metaphysics to the human and social experience and all things spiritual.
Welcome to an inspired community that offers support, encouragement, and new ways of thinking. You are the inspired and the inspiration.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on Om Times Radio.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network. Simone Milasas would like you to know that business can be fun, which is why she wrote the book, Joy of Business. What if you could have the joy of business rather than the stress and struggle? Most of the time, the only thing stopping you from a thriving business is you. In the Joy of Business book, Simone gives you access consciousness tools and pragmatic ways to get out of your own way and to create the business, life, and living you know is possible and beyond what this reality says is achievable. Business is joy. It's creation. It's generative. It can be the adventure of living. You can purchase your copy of the book through Amazon or Joy of Business website, www.accessjoyofbusiness.com. Conscious media for conscious minds. Om Times.
And we are into the last 15 minutes of Eros evolution, and this is where we explore the link between sexuality and spirituality, and today we are focusing on disability and what we can learn from Dr. Mitchell Tepper from his research and these 5 universal secrets to pleasure and connectedness. I'm going to repeat. The first one is trust, safety, and connectedness matter more than movement and sensations. 2. Pleasure is not merely a physical sensation. 3. Orgasm happens not just between your legs. 4. Intimate connection fuels desire. And 5. Love is an action, not a feeling. And you can find out a lot more about his secrets and also all the things that he has to share in his book, Regain That Feeling. You can get a complimentary chapter by going to drmitchelltepper.com, and that's /secrets revealed. And you can get a 20% discount by going to Create Space for the entire book. And the discount code of 20% is Z4RS2DUS. And of course, you can buy the book on Amazon as well. He is working on a documentary, and you can support intimate relationships for wounded troops and partners by going to loveafterwar.org. You can follow Dr. Mitchell Tepper by going to Dr. T on Twitter. That's Dr. T on Twitter, and on Facebook, Dr. Tepper. And his website, again, is drmitchelltepper.com. So welcome back to the last 15 minutes, Dr. Tepper.
All right, it's gone by quickly.
Yeah. Yes, it goes by very quickly when you're having fun and you're learning lots. So tell us a practical tip tool that you would like to share with listeners that they can start using in their lives immediately.
Well, I think I'd like to talk a little bit about sensate focus, which is something that sex therapists or other therapists use when people come in and are having problems, but I don't think it needs to be reserved for people who are having difficulties. Yeah. So, if you're just, having routine, say, sexual intercourse, or just routine sex, if you take a break for a night and just begin to explore, like one partner take turns exploring the other partner, and in sensate focus, we would touch for our own pleasure. So, touching for different pressure, very light touch, and we're going to touch like just an area of, say, from the neck up or from the shoulders up. So we'll give our partner a scalp massage, and we'll run our fingers across their eyes and fingertips across their lips and pull on their ears. And so we want to use different pressures, and you could use different temperatures. You could use, a warm cloth, or you could use an ice cube. So experimenting with different touches and with different textures and different temperatures, and find out what your partner likes and doesn't like. And this could be repeated all over the body. It could be repeated on the back, on the buttocks, on the legs. And so you can take turns with each other on a different night, exploring a different section of the body with different sensations, and see, what areas of your body there might be excitable that you haven't explored before.
Yes. I think we take our bodies for granted, and we feel very different when we are being touched by our partner, and the relationship that we have our body is ongoing and ever-changing. And really, the more we are touched and the more we relish the sensations in our body, the more nerve endings are being activated, and we actually feel more, we actually become more expansive. And this is such a profound practice that you're sharing with us. If only all of us really take the time to do that, I really truly believe that we will feel very different, we will look different, and the world will be a very different place. That's just what I think.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
And I understand that you are also a spiritual person. First of all, for those of you who haven't met Dr. Mitchell Tepper, I'm just meeting him today for the first time on Skype. And just before the show, I looked, we had visual. So he actually looks hot. He's hot. He has muscles. He's cute looking, and he's actually exercises. He's hot. So tell us something about what you do in your daily spiritual practice that has changed your life.
First of all, I've got a big smile on.
That's true.
I've got a big smile on because of your flattery, and that will get you anywhere. Spiritually, I mean, practice. I actually I practice my own faith, which is Judaism. So I go through my daily prayers and rituals. I can't say it's so spiritual as I'm like I feel so connected with God, but I do it as a daily routine to stay connected. So there are times when I feel like my prayers have been moving, but most of the time it's just keeping basically the line of communication open. I also take care of my body, as you mentioned. So I do make sure to take time to exercise in whatever way I can. So I do swimming. I use it. I adapt it. I put some paddles on my hands and I float on my stomach and on my feet. And so I swim a few times a week. I do yoga, adaptive yoga. I do yin restorative, but I use bolsters to get down to the floor. And if someone needs to help me spread my legs and put a bolster in between my legs, they do that. But I don't keep the paralysis from me doing my yoga, my swimming, and other types of physical activities, because I think mind, body, and spirit are all connected. And being in your best possible shape is going to also, keep your blood flowing and keep you sensual and sexual.
Beautiful. Yeah, I like what you're saying about the link between mind, body, and spirit. For some people who are on the spiritual path, I think sometimes they do neglect their bodies and also their sexuality. So, I just like to ask at this point if you have any last suggestions with regards to keeping sexual and spiritual. Well,
I mean, making the visual, like you said, making the physical spiritual. So really honoring your partner or honoring yourself if you're having sex with yourself beforehand, instead of just taking yourself or someone else for granted. So I think we continue to honor ourselves and other people, cherish each other as we're all made in the image of a God or creator, that will begin, continue or begin to have better connected sex.
Can we just talk very, very quickly, just before we end, about your Sex and Paralysis video series that you have made free and available online, because that's beautiful work that you have put out there. Can you just talk very quickly about them?
Absolutely. They're all available at drmitchelltepper.com. And so they're between 4 and 8 minutes. One is sexual positions for women with paralysis, and one is sexual positions for men. And so they demonstrate the use of pillows, foam wedges, and various positions when you have limited mobility. There's one on Tantra, which says stop, focus, and connect, and gives you the very essence of Tantra to begin with. There's one on Sensate Focus, which I talked about, just a few moments ago. And so, they're all, very practical and demonstratable, and you can watch them and implement what you see there. There's one on vibrations to increase sensation, and vibrators are not just for men and not just for women.
Yeah.
They're good for both. And then there's one that's pretty particular to men. It's solutions for erectile dysfunction. So all those are available for free at drmitchelltepper.com. It's spelled with drmitchelltepper.com. And the Facebook is Dr. Tepper, DOCTORTEPPER.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. So I really encourage listeners to go check out his work. You may think, I'm not disabled, so why should I watch other videos? Well, you never know what will happen to you. You're not dead yet. That's one. The next thing is we do go through changes with our bodies, and just by learning how to be more adaptive, it actually gives us more hope and confidence with our sexuality at large in general. And next week I have a different guest, and we're going to be talking about conscious erotic touch, creating connection and flow for couples with Yela Krimer. And definitely stay tuned next week. And thank you so much, Dr. Mitchell Tepper, for coming on to today's show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's really been an honor, and I truly love your work.
Well, I look forward to visiting you in Singapore.
Yeah.
Let's talk about making that happen.
It has to happen. Okay, so tune in next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.